Um, let's switch some gears now. That's focusing on SMU and game week. Got a question actually from Scott German, fellow sports writer here at AFP. He asked me just he sent me a text. How do we do on the transfer portal this year? How are our guys doing from the transfer portal? And I had to say, gosh, let's go look it up. So I did. Uh, and what I think the point that we're making when we talk about this is, all right, so Scott started this after the Carolina game. He wrote about, I mean, he didn't count them right. I had to go recount for him. He was guessing there were 30 guys who were either grad students or seniors on this team, no eligibility after this season, and that'd be a lot of guys to replace. I went and counted as actually 43, so it's even worse than Scott had put on there. Um, and then now you'll figure that there will be a couple guys at least in there who will get medical red shirts, so it's not going to exactly be 43, but then you have to put on top of that guys who will transfer out in terms of just roster reconstruction for next year is what I'm getting at. Um, and I went back and looked at the last 2 years' numbers just to get a sense, how the transfer portal plays for Virginia. Elliott lost 15 guys from last year's roster, 14 guys from 2022. So you can guess somewhere 12 to 15 guys will go there. So if you're talking 43 seniors and grad seniors, between 12 and 15 maybe guys who will transfer out, you're looking at somewhere 50 to maybe up to 60 guys that he'll have to replace on the roster next year. Oh man, that's like, I mean, that's a rebuild. That's just a total rebuild from one year to the next. And this is a veteran team that is 5-5 with two games coming up, SMU this weekend, Virginia Tech next weekend, that they'll be heavy underdogs in. So, I mean, loading up on old guys and not winning and then having to start from scratch next year, not the way to go. But anyway, okay. Um, Look at the contributors. Let's get a sense of the guys who've come off the portal who've contributed. Cam Butler, I put him top of the list. He was supposed to be a one and done guy back in 2022, but then that year ended. We'll talk about the November 13th, 2022 shootings coming up in this podcast. With everybody got an extra year of eligibility from that, and then his season last year, medical redshirt, played like, I think 3 games, and then suffered it's a foot injury, but I'd have to go back and look. Anyway, so a seventh year. Um, he's the Blutarski of this team, and boy, he's put up some really good numbers. 37 QB pressures, just one sack, right? So just when you think, oh, just one sack, 37 QB pressures ranks in the top 20 nationally. Uh, that's that he's getting pressure on quarterbacks and consistently doing so. So Butler, from 2 years ago, from Miami of Ohio, and you'll notice a trend here with a lot of the schools. There's only a couple of Power Four schools. Campton Shine, a cornerback from Eastern Michigan, Pro Football Focus grade of 77.5. He is the embodiment of shutdown corner. They did a great job finding this kid. He's allowed just 12 catches on 34 pass targets. That's absurd. A 66.7 NFL passer rating against 5 pass breakups for Shine. Corey Thomas, I mentioned him earlier, the safety. Pro Football Focus grade of 76.5. Actually, I didn't mention him. It was Corey. It was another Corey that I mentioned. 538 snaps this year, 42 tackles, 24 on run plays, 90.8 NFL passer rating against. That's a little high, but I mean, I like, he's versatile. Contributor in the run game. Kobe Pace, tailback from Clemson. So there's a Power 5 guy, Power 4 guy. PFF grade of 72.5, 479 yards on the ground. 20 catches on 26 targets for 184 yards out of the backfield. So those are good numbers. Tyler Neville has been a revelation, the kid from Harvard. PFF grade of 67.5, 31 catches, 46 targets, 352 yards, 2 touchdowns. Solid run blocking grade, 67.0. Brian Stevens, he's later on my list here, but he should be closer to the top. The center from Dayton from last year, 2 year start on the offensive line, 869 snaps last year, 643 this year. He's been the MVP of the offensive line for 2 years. He came from Dayton, so I mean that's a find right there. These and all these kids are finds. I mean, we're talking about Miami of Ohio, Eastern Michigan, Akron, Harvard, Dayton. Now Kendra Smith, the cornerback from Penn, 420 snaps this year, a little bit lower grade, 57.3. Uh, Good in pass coverage, 89.0 NFL passer rating against. Jam Jackson, another kid from a small school. Robert Morris, great name, Jam. He's a defensive. He's a cornerback, and his name is name or nickname is Jam. 627 snaps, a lot of snaps, 56.6 PFF grade, and he's kind of a feast or famine guy. The famine is the 105.7 NFL passer rating against, but also five pass breakups this year, four touchdowns allowed, contributing to the NFL passer rating against being a little higher. By the way, if you're hearing noise, there's work being done here at the home office, so forget that part. Um, Now that's the contributors. The honorable mentions, I mentioned Trail Harris earlier in the podcast. If you're listening to one or listening to or watching one of the videos, talked about Trail Harris on the injury report. He's still out this week. He only played 3 games this year. Would have loved to have seen what he could have done with this team this year. 13 catches in those 3 games, 201 yards. Just good numbers per catch, yards per catch, and then he's the deep threat on this team. Love to have had him back this weekend. Hopefully, get him back next weekend. He's from Kent State. Other honorable mention will be Tony Musket. Again, talked earlier in the podcast, and if you're watching on video, one of the shorter videos, Musket might be the starter quarterback this weekend. I don't think so, but he should be. I think he should be. I'll say that. I didn't say that earlier. I think he should be the quarterback this weekend. Um, you know, good numbers, just injured a lot last year. That injury put him behind the eight ball. He didn't get to play in spring. Um, and Calandri's been regressing, so we'll see. Maybe Musket gets the call. And that's why I'm putting him as an honorable mention. Getting snaps, guys. These are the guys who are getting snaps but aren't doing much with them. Chris Tyree has been a disappointment. Man, there was, a hope. I mean, I'm going to use the words Malik Washington. Nobody was going to do what Malik Washington did last year, 110 catches. That's just ridiculous. But I mean, the idea of a speedy guy like Tyree playing the slot like Malik Washington did last year, pairing him up with Malachi Fields on the end and Trell Harris, we didn't even know what we had when we got him in from Kent State. But man, if all those three, if Harris was healthy and Tyree was, he's not been healthy either. He's had a groin injury, he's had some nagging things, but just 23 catches on 35 targets and just 127 yards. The only thing they've really done with him is use him on wide receiver screens. He's done nothing downfield. It's just amazing. I mean, there's a guy from Notre Dame that you just thought was going to be, and again, not 110 catches, but he was going to be a contributor, and he's not been. Another disappointment from a power four from North Carolina, former four-star recruit Andre Green Jr. He's played in 10 games. He's got 9 catches on 19 targets. Just major disappointment. And I remember last week he got called for a hold on a wide receiver screen that brought a play back, and then he missed a block on another one. And it's just not good. Another Power Five guy getting snaps, Ugana Nana, the offensive lineman. He keeps getting thrown out there. 377 snaps this year. His pass block grade is 37.2 from PFF. I mean, those are three guys from power conferences that have just done nothing. The injured list, uh, Dorian Jones from Cincinnati. He's on the injured list, but he could move his way up to contributors. In the last 3 games, he's been on field for 97 snaps, and he's the kind of guy that could be a difference maker if he's more available. And he might be with James Jackson out at middle linebacker. Maybe Jones gets some more run there. Jimmy Christ, another guy from a power four, Penn State offensive lineman. Only been on the field for 4 snaps this year, 77 snaps total, or 4 games, 77 snaps. Um, just hasn't been effective. Sage Ennis re-injured a knee that had cut his season short at Clemson last year. Just 72 snaps in 4 games. And Ethan Sipe didn't even, excuse me, I was going to say didn't get on the field. Actually got on the field for 20 snaps in the opener with Richmond, broke his foot, was out for the season. So, and I didn't mention even in the column that I wrote on this, Drake Metcalf from Central Florida, injured. I believe he was injured in the spring. I know he's been out for quite a while, and he's not going to play this year. So the analysis there, Elliott and company have been able to plug some holes. But aside from last year's revelation with Malik Washington, the portal hasn't elevated the overall level of talent in the program. And if the past 2 years trends continue, you're not going to just have to replace again the 43 guys who were out of eligibility this year, but then another 12 to 15 guys. The difficulty, I wrote a column about this last week. Elliott was interviewed after the win over Pitt, live on the set of the ACC huddle. And Mark Richt, the former head coach at Georgia, former head coach at Miami, who interviewed for the UVA job back after Mike London was let go before Bronco Mendenhall was hired. Richt indicated, hey, yeah, I was interviewed for the UVA job, and I know how hard it is to recruit there. Asked Elliott, just how hard it is to recruit there. And what Elliott said was, it is difficult to get guys into UVA. You can't really go after sophomores or juniors, at least to any degree, because there are exceptions to the rule, but it's just hard for a sophomore to transfer in and get 60 credits in his last 2 years at UVA. There's a lot of makeups that have to be done. Credits that won't be accepted from other schools, that kind of thing. So it's really hard to stay on course to graduation if you're a sophomore. You can find freshmen. You can find a great student somewhere else who's got undergraduate eligibility left. You're pretty much reduced, Elliott said, to going after guys who are already grad students. I mean, that's Chris Tyree, for example, as a guy of that nature. So, you're limited what you can get from the portal. And then the other side of this is where you got to indict the Tony Elliott regime. The prep recruiting has just been god awful. 247 Sports has Virginia's 2024 class, the bulk of which will be announced here, I guess, in a few weeks. December, the December signing date is the big one now, not the February one. The 2024 class is 15th in the ACC out of 17. Notre Dame doesn't count as far as football goes. 88th nationally. Some of the schools ahead of Virginia nationally: Toledo, North Texas, Western Michigan, Charlotte, Arkansas State, South Alabama. And, Virginia is an ACC school. They just opened that $80 million football ops center. All that was supposed to solve so many problems, and it's not getting done. So I don't know. There's not there's not a lot to think. Looking forward to the future for as far as that goes. All right.